Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little about the characters, the creators. Ooh, that's getting big, and the art and such. Today I'm going to take something just slightly different. Is You may have heard that just a few weeks ago, a Tennessee school board has banned Mouse, the graphic novel Mouse, from their middle school curriculum. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Unfortunately, I have been unable to find my copy of Mouse, but fortunately, I have a copy of this book right here. This is Raw, which was a magazine published through the 80s by Mouse creator and his wife, Art Spiegelman. And then this is a book reprinting some of the material from Raw, including one chapter from Mouse. So we'll just take a little look at that. So, okay, Mouse. That is M-A-U-S, which is the German spelling of the word mouse. It's a graphic novel, and it's only novel in quotes. It's more of a memoir by Art Spiegelman. Okay, it's actually a nonfiction book done in graphic novel style. The project was originally serialized in chapters in Raw magazine from 1980 to 1991. And within the book, Spiegelman talks with his father about his experiences as a Polish Jew and surviving the Nazi Holocaust in World War II. In the story, Jews are depicted as mice, Germans, Nazis, as cats, Americans as dogs, and other nationalities as other animals. And it was the first and only graphic novel to win a Pulitzer Prize. That was in 1992. Another little sip of tea. Now we're going to talk about the creator, Art Spiegelman. He was born in 1948. He's still alive. He's an American cartoonist and editor and publisher. And he was very influential. Well, first of all, I want to say, because he was born in 1948, but he was born in Sweden and came to the U.S. with his parents when he was 3 years old. He has been very influential in the comics medium, and especially as an editor of Arcade and Raw magazines, and has been a cartoonist for the New Yorker magazine. He started with Topps trading card company, working there for 2 decades, where he co-created Wacky Packages and the Garbage Pail Kids. He achieved some prominence in underground comics in the 70s with experimental and autobiographical work. And he and his wife, Francois Moulet, edited 11 issues of Raw magazine between 1980 and 1991, which is a large, oversized, tabloid-sized magazine. So this is tiny compared to that in size because it makes it very expensive. early on, they also published one volume of Raw at its actual tabloid size, um, in heavier book format. And in this title of Raw, he introduced a number of cartoonists who became prominent in alternative comics. And then Spiegelman has been a teacher at the School of Visual Arts in New York City. And he's done all kinds of interviews and been featured in documentary films and the like. So this is the cover of Raw, but this is what we're going to talk about. Mouse. So let's go take a look at Art Spiegelman's Mouse. Okay, here we get to see this chapter of Mouse, and I'm not going to, like I usually do, go through into the story. I mostly wanted to just show you a little bit of Mouse, because this is chapter 10 here, and give you an idea of what he did. This is in this page, most of these pages are 4-tier and primarily 8-panel page layout with some variations. Now, in an interview I saw with him many years ago, Art Spiegelman said that since he was doing this as a memoir, and he felt it should be written, or like writing, so he used the instruments of writing to produce this comic. That is, he drew it on standard 8.5 by 11 size typing paper using a fountain pen, both instruments for writing. So that you see that these pages here, as presented here, are only slightly smaller than the original art. And now these books, I mean this stuff, this material, as I said, it was banned by Tennessee School Board, and the excuse they gave, well, as you can see here, it is cartoonish style, highly stylized, cartoonish, as far as art style, very minimalistic. You see very little detail other than just indications and patterns for background, which is fine. It works very well. And the figures here, who are in this case, it's just himself talking with his father, and they're Jews. They are mice. And the objections that was raised was because of foul language, which has very, very little and very, very tame language, like damn, goddamn, and very occasionally, and stuff like that. Now, and they objected to some nudity. Now, there's virtually no nudity in the book, in the story, with a couple of exceptions. One is part of the story was representing Art Spiegelman's mother's suicide, which she did in a bathtub. So she was nude. But as you can see from this stylization, it would have been a dead mouse. And the nudity is almost non-existent. She was mostly covered in water in a bathtub, and even the nipples of her breast would have been represented by a dot. Okay, and since I don't have my copy available, I have seen the image that was objected to, and it's a very small panel with almost no detail. So, and it's definitely not sexualized. And then there is another scene in which the in the concentration camps, when Jews have first arrived, they are stripped naked, or when they're ushered into the gas chambers and the pseudo showers, and which again is very minimal. You don't see any real nudity. Again, they're mice, and there's no. It's not a non-sexual context, and so they're naked. They're not really nude. They're naked. They're naked to take what they think is a shower, and then, being very self-conscious, the individuals are covering up. So that is sheer ridiculousness. Plus, they object to some scenes of brutality, which is part and parcel for what happened, is depicted. And even then, it is very kind of minimalized. And here, now we're in the flashback scene here, in the concentration camps, and they hear that the war is over, and they're about to be, and here we have the cats. They're just going to slaughter as many of the Jews as they can. And so here we see a few of them getting away. You can see nice patterns. I mean, but even the backgrounds are just indicated through shapes and shadows and patterns. And the figures, there's almost no detail. Here again we see more of this. Here you get to see that the Germans are cats. You can barely tell that they're cats. Oh, my spine is broken on the book. And there are some scenes of mice being hung. That's terrible. Here we get to see that the American soldiers are dogs, dog faces, right? The spine is broken and the pages are starting to come out. That's unfortunate. More flashback. Some photographs of the family. Yeah. And here's a page I did want to show you. While it's still following the same pattern layout, I like the way he designed this for several panels together to make up one image, which helps convey the passage of time, and that's very good. So this is primarily, and this is the end of this little chapter here, but this is primarily to show that the people who are objecting to this and banning this book, is obvious that it's not for their stated reasons. In my opinion, even though Art Spiegelman said, well, this was intended for an adult audience, but then he was surprised with the reception he got in the publishing field, as having done some magnificent material for young readers, which was not his intention, but he's glad that they are consuming it, because it is a major part of world history, a terrible part of world history, and a great introduction. And it's a memoir. It's telling more or less what actually happened from the point of view of the victims. And in my personal opinion, it should be required reading for every junior high or middle school. That tells you how old I am. When I went to school, middle schools didn't exist. They were junior highs. And so, in my opinion, they seem to be objecting to their children learning actual history. which is a terrible thing. I think banning books, and I wanted to make one little addendum here, is that about the same time, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, a pastor of a megachurch, again in Tennessee, staged a book burning. And it was, to defy the forces of Satan, get rid of all this magical stuff. So he encouraged people to bring material from Harry Potter, probably Dungeons and Dragons, to Twilight, or anything like that, probably Buffy, and including a lot of stuff from Walt Disney, because they do have a lot of fairy tales with witches and the like in there. And I saw the video, and they had this huge pyre and people just cheering, hundreds and hundreds of people just cheering and throwing books and other products onto this fire. And you can bet your bottom dollar that a lot of that material was also comic books, because, well, undoubtedly Dungeons and Dragons made its way in there, and Dungeons and Dragons have a lot of novels, and they have a lot of comic books, and you can bet Doctor Strange made its way in there too, and who knows what else. So this is probably the most political thing I'll ever do on this channel, and that is just that. It's simply horrendous. Remember that if the people, or if you or the people that you support are banning books and burning books, you are the bad guy. Always. So that about covers what I wanted to cover here. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Share it with friends who might be interested in this material, this kind of stuff. And I appreciate every like, every share, and every subscription. And remember, comics are art, and art is free speech.